The man in charge of the G.I. Joe and the Transformers IP was recently talking about the upcoming Transformers and G.I. Joe reboot, and he said, temper your expectations because it's not really a crossover, it's more of a standalone thing with some additional aspects. AKA, it's gonna be a Transformers film in pretty much every way you could see a Transformers film being a sequel to Rise of the Beasts, but there's gonna be a couple named G.I. Joe characters. Well, that's disappointing. The producer of the Transformers and G.I. Joe franchise, Lorenzo, I can't say and botch his last name, so I'm not even going to try, was recently talking about the upcoming crossover, or Transformers and G.I. Joe, or Transformers versus G.I. Joe, whatever the film ends up being, and he told everybody to temper expectations, and that this film is not really what it's been pitched as and what the fans envisioned, and that it's not really Transformers G.I. Joe crossover the way we think it is. Which makes me think that what we're getting is essentially another entry in the Transformers franchise that is a sequel to Rise of the Beasts, and what they're going to do is just add a couple of G.I. Joes. So what I'm pitching here is probably something along the lines of, hey, we got the star of the last film and he just joined the G.I. Joes, right? Well, as he's working with them, they're obviously helping the Autobots. It just so turns out that the Decepticons are up to no good, and suddenly they got somebody on Earth that they're working with. We don't really have an idea of who it is, but hey, it turns out there's a weapons arms dealer. Oh my god, is that Destro? Oh, it turns out it is. And maybe they bring up the concept of these guys owning their own country or their own island, you know, like Cobra Island, but don't expect a full-on G.I. Joe all over the place here, and that's a little disappointing because a lot of people were hoping this is sort of like a unification of the brands, right? And at this point, if you don't do that, are you going to get another entry if this next film doesn't deliver, you know? Because to me, you already introduced the concept of G.I. Joe. The next film should have the Joes full-blown working with the Transformers, and then we revealed that Cobra and the Joes have been doing secret warfare. We just haven't seen it. And it was the 90s when the last film took place, right? But now we're getting, by all accounts, into the late 90s or early 2000s. You should tie Cobra into it fully. Be like, look, out of all the wars that have happened, the Gulf War happened and all that, from those ashes rises Cobra. One sort of terrible terrorism organization around the planet, right? Here they're all unifying against this force known as G.I. Joe, who now is working with alien robots. And G.I. Joe can position themselves as the opposition. Like, there's something here worth exploring, but if you're going to minimize the involvement of the Joes in what you told us is Transformers and G.I. Joe crossover movie, then I automatically think you're kind of losing a lot of people. Like, you guys get what I'm saying here? To me, they're doing a half step when they need to go full into it and make this a spectacle film. Because if they don't, if they try to stretch this out even further, they're going to lose a lot of people. And with reports that they want to bring a lot more of these franchises in for potential crossovers in the future, how long is this going to take? Like, yeah, I get it. They want their Avengers, but you got to just kind of commit to it. Go into it. Don't start taking forever to get there because the fans are going to get bored of waiting for it. You just got to go full on into it. Reveal Cobra Commander is the bad guy. Reveal that he has Megatron as a gun, and there you go. Or maybe even a tank that Cobra is using. Like, just go full on into it. Embrace the stupidity of the concept. If you're trying to spin this as something that needs to be real and grounded and we can't go full on into it because, oh, people aren't going to buy it, then you're missing the point of Transformers and G.I. Joe. The whole point is it's supposed to not make sense but be entertaining. That's literally why they cross over into comics.